In some weird way, I think we do in our whole life, I think we do one painting. It's different aspects of one painting.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions, and I am so thrilled that you are joining me here today. I'm really happy to be chatting today with Joshua Elias, an exceptional painter who has been on the Art Dimensions artist roster for many years, and for that, I am very grateful. Hey, Joshua, welcome to the Art Dimensions podcast.
Hi, Whitney.
How are
Nice to be
you?
here.
Oh, good. Thank you for being here and for welcoming us into your creative world. So let's dive in. What is your favorite part of being a painter?
I like the act of painting itself. I love it. There's all sorts of rituals before and after and during and art careers, but the actual painting of paint, I'm an oil painter, and it's very, very sensual. It's a very sensual, essential and sensual media rather to use. And I love when I paint, I go in almost a meditative state. It's very, very calming, usually. It's very connected.
Yeah, and it sounds almost cathartic.
Yeah, I believe it is. I try to prepare myself before I paint a lot
How do you do that?
through meditation, through the way I mix colors, through the canvas itself. I get in touch with the materials that I work with a lot, be it linen or canvas, sometimes panel. I believe that all of us, not only artists, have a lot of energy move through our fingertips, through our whole universe, and then come out through our fingertips. So sometimes even sounds a little weird, but just even touching the canvas before I work on it, I get connected with it. So it's like a conversation.
Between you and the canvas.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for those listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a snapshot of your journey to where you are today?
The older we get, the bigger the snapshot, but I'll try to be succinct. Um, I painted when I was a child. My mother is a professional artist, a wonderful one, and my sister is an artist as well. A lot of time at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is a wonderful museum. I was educated through my mother, through the museums, and through a really great educational system when I was really young. I went to California with the family, wound up going to university in San Diego, and I studied film. So I was making small little films that were ridiculous, but fun. And, I was in college and enjoying that process. Afterwards, I went to Europe and I bought a one-way ticket and I wound up in Berlin. And I was doing theater and acting and writing. I worked for the military. I got a job with the US military in Berlin, and the wall was up. I had a great experience there and worked with children of the military there. While that wasn't that long a time, it was an important period of time. It was only like 6 months or something, but I was very impressionable at that time. And I came back and I did some Brecht plays, Bertolt Brecht plays, and some theater and some acting in Los Angeles for a couple years, and had a series of losses basically in life that happens. A friend offed himself. My best friend was very intense, and I was trying to figure out what it's all about, like a lot of us do. It eventually led me to painting and to Otis, where I went to school at night school, really. And I designed these sunglasses made out of 35 millimeter film, and I started to market them around. It was like an art project that turned into a little business for me, and I had zero business acumen. That all shaped me into looking into materials and the way I see things. So that led me into painting and also kind of spiritual studies, kind of parallel lines working towards each other. First, painting, as you brought up, was actually cathartic for me, and then it turned into the love of painting. So that's as succinct as I could put it. And here today at the Brewery Arts Complex, and I work out of here for many years and exhibit all around. I've had many influences, but yeah, since then.
That was a perfect snapshot. Thank you. And I didn't know that you worked for the military
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
strange.
know about the glasses. I'm very happy to hear about all of that.
Okay, great.
Do you think creativity is something you're born with or something you're taught?
I think it's something we all have. It just depends on our access. It's not that we all have equal levels of creativity because we're all lenses and have our own way of creating and taking things in as well, receiving. Certainly, we have different education systems that give us no access or some access, and but I believe once you do have access to things, you have to do the work to build on it. It's not about that you have something and you're given it and he or she isn't, or it isn't given it. And so I don't look at it as a supply and demand.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. And I think I agree with you. Who are some of your greatest influences?
I love the mid-century artists. Rothko certainly. De Kooning had a major work ethic that I liked. That was he was a house painter and then came into painting.
De Kooning was?
De Kooning was from Holland. I would say Frankenthaler, Joan Mitchell, and Clifford Still. I like quite a bit. Clifford Still interested me, and I'm still trying to learn more about him. I did go to the museum in Denver, which is phenomenal. But he decided the last 20 years of his life not to exhibit work. He didn't know it was going to be the last 20 years. He just wasn't going to exhibit his work anymore. That interests me in today's glossy world in the way that he orchestrated where his paintings were going to and how they would be shown and exhibited. He demanded a museum. I mean, it sounds extraordinarily egotistical. He had a wife who helped him with cataloging every work. It was meticulous. But the work itself, I think, warrants it. And it was really great work. But it's interesting that it was kept together as a body of work. He influenced me in that way, and constantly new influences. I've spent a lot of time in Europe and museums, and the classics of Titian is just unbelievable. Caravaggio, people like that are just unbelievable.
When I think of Caravaggio, I think of the chiaroscuro and the
Hmm.
shadowing, and
Hmm.
your work is abstract, but how does Caravaggio influence you? I mean, is there a
Well, first of all, possibly there's different reasons why he painted like that. Either he was on the run for doing bad things, but he was creating light out of darkness. My work is very colorful. It might appear that light is out of lightness, but sometimes I work that way. Even my first layers of paint are dark. I work that way. But he also influenced me with form, his mastery of form and light and the handling of light. Spectacular painter. I mean, just an unbelievable, possibly not a good man, but a spectacular painter. Yeah.
yeah. But are your paintings inspired by an emotional energy?
Yes, definitely that. An example is this last year, and it's been interesting for all of us. I've been in more lockdown than I normally am. Painters are fairly solitary in our lives, so it's not that big a deal. But I've been painting, and not by some self conscious orchestration, but extraordinarily colorful, bright, up vibrational work, as an example. Possibly because some of the news and stuff and was so bleak, and it was just so full of turmoil that I thought it's time to even lift things up greater, because anyone could open, I don't know, online, the New York Times or something. You're not going to make a painting and correct all of that. So yes, there's an emotional energy example in this body of work that I'm doing now, and always has been. I'm an emotional guy, so whatever.
The body of work that you're working on now, what is it called? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Ironically enough, it's called Everything Not Explained. But the body of work I've been doing is based on a kind of blending of forms and shapes and colors using a sfumato technique, which is like smoke. It means accidentally like smoke. And there's kind of an ambiguity or in betweenness of it. It's extraordinarily sensual and pleasing and soft. It's almost like I can't paint soft enough these days.
And the colors that you choose.
I mix a lot of paint and I intentionally make certain beautiful colors a little dirty, like a dirty yellow or something like that, that are much more interesting than, out of the tube stuff like that. Colors I'm using lavenders and yellows and oranges. I'm playing with hot colors, diffusing hot colors. Like one painting, which I could never photograph properly, is called The Ghost of Spumoni. And it's very, very light. You can only see it in person, one of those kind of paintings. So I'm working with these colors. An example is I also assign like a citrus yellow that I've created, with Beyond the Tube. It's almost a painful color. While it's very beautiful color, it's got a little bit of sting to it. So I think in terms almost as a cook or something, where you have different flavors and opposites of so emotions assigned to those colors. Very light lavender blues for me represents space and openness and possibilities and kind of things like that. I didn't sit and write, those down, meanings to those, but I'm just telling you on the fly. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
No, that's great. Perfect. I can't wait to see this body of work. What is one creative project that taught you something fundamental about yourself? And if you wouldn't mind mentioning curatorial work at Lemley's as well.
All right, I'll take the second question first because I'm
Okay.
nonlinear. All right. Lemley's was a great experience, and I say was because who knows what's happening with movie theaters right now and all that. But I created a program. I was approached by a gentleman over there, Mark Horwitz, who worked there, who had worked at a gallery that I'd been in, and introduced to Greg Lemley, who owned the theaters, the art theaters. They wanted to have they didn't put galleries but do art in all their movie theaters. I created a program with them. Mainly I curated possibly about 48 shows over a period of 5 years.
Amazing.
There are different theaters. This might answer the first question as well. I would say I learned a lot about different shapes or the same shapes of when, let's say you have a hallway. A hallway is not an easy way to hang art because there's not a lot of step back space.
Right.
So if you have a really huge painting in a hallway, I'm not saying you can't do that. It can be interesting, but you're going to be looking, within, maybe 3 or 4 feet of the painting, not 10 feet away where you can take in a whole thing of it. I learned to work with shapes and forms and different artists' work and to imagine their work in a hanging state, and within the concept of a public and theater and and all that. So we did art shows there, and then also created this with Lin Chang. We created a production in Pasadena where we did slideshows for the artists on movie screens. Then we'd have the art openings. I was during this with two other people sometimes and sometimes alone. We had, I don't know, 300-400 artists would approach us, online. Online, I would jury the exhibition. We'd have a drop-off day. Within a matter of 4 hours of the day of hanging, I would decide where things are going and how they're working together. What it taught me was how to visualize the work and the interconnection with the work and the forms and how between us, I didn't always love the work, but it might have worked. And sometimes I did. And, but I also learned that the reason certain works are chosen and not chosen, the artist would never know really, because maybe we already had enough portraiture or that wasn't happening for this show, or not that all the criterion had to be spelled out, but sometimes when you look over, they can't know the reason why something's chosen or not chosen. Something might be a blazing red painting with another blazing red painting that maybe it just wasn't, it was too much for that exhibit.
But it would be fitting for a different exhibit.
Exactly. So from the point of view of an artist, you're like, I don't know why he didn't choose my work. I thought this was a great piece. We're just going by that. Why couldn't they? I don't. It takes one out of the victim mode. That isn't always the reason. Sometimes they just don't like it. And you have to accept that. So I learned that.
That's so interesting. So the Lemley's theaters are closed now, correct?
I think they're reopening. I don't know how much official information. I believe they're reopening, and I think that they own some of the theaters, and I think they sold some of the real estate, but they're reopening some of the theaters. Now that depends on COVID, and hopefully that is, gets better real soon. So
Are you going to be curating in the future with them?
don't know. Don't know. Right now, I'm feeling not. I've been working on my own work a lot. That took time and energy more than I thought. I was writing also the show statements and coordinating with the artists because I could do it quickly. It still took energy that I think I'm going to be putting, and have been into my own art.
Wonderful. How do you stay motivated?
It's not really a problem for me. I think physical activity is important. While sometimes I enjoy it, certain things, I think it's important in both a mental, physical, and spiritual kind of circulation. Like constant, keep things circulating is kind of healthy. Like
I like the way that sounds. Circulation. I like
yeah.
that.
So that is how I keep motivated. It's not blindly. I have belief in what I do. I've also arrived at a place where I think all artists, they're painters, I think in some weird way, I think we do in our whole life, I think we do one painting. It's different aspects of one painting, almost like a diamond has different facets.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're on different dimensions. And I believe that it's important for me to be honest and true about what I'm articulating. So I have kind of a fervent, I don't know, faith, and I'm not a religious person, but I do meditate and work on that. So I have a belief in myself, I guess, without being arrogant about it.
No. Yeah, no, that doesn't sound arrogant. So 100 years from now, what do you hope people will write about your paintings?
One is I hope people are writing. Wow. That's a tough question. I was going to say, I think that I would hope that kind of what I hope they do now, which sometimes they do, and kind of raise people up their vibration. They could have a nice journey or experience with the work and more a connection for them, whatever they're doing in their life, that can really kind of raise their vibration to a positive way. And so that kind of connection through color, through line, through form. I don't think it's important for me that they make sense of the world as it was 100 years earlier by looking at my paintings, or make sense of me per se.
Got it. Got it. There are two paintings behind you. The greenish one,
Hmm.
what is the title of that one? It's
That
stunning.
is the title of the whole body of work. It's called Everything Not Explained.
Is it your favorite?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's great. I will get I'll post some pictures of that one
Okay,
if it's
great.
completed. Joshua, thank you so much. This was great fun. I totally
Charmed.
appreciate. Oh,
It was
okay.
great. I enjoyed this.
Very good. I really appreciate you chatting with me. And if anyone listening has questions about Joshua's images, you can just email me through the Art Dimensions website, which is artdimensionsonline.com. And be sure to check out his amazing paintings on the Art Dimensions site as well. And Joshua, what is your website?
Oh, it's joshuaelias.com.
JoshuaElias.com. You can also see all of his work. Be sure to join my new Facebook group, Beyond the Palette, where we will be chatting about all things art. So, everybody, take good care. And Joshua, thank you and happy creating.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you.